Welcome, everybody, to another great episode of Real Life Matters. Of course, I'm your host, DBoss, and I'm just asking everybody to support all the people that come on the show and all the events. If you can attend, you can attend, but if you can see it virtually, well, then, go on and support it. And if you also do want to come on my show, you could just inbox me at media@dbossnetworks.com and just come on the show if you're a company, a brand, or a business. But today I got a special person down there. They're fighting for your rights, human rights, youth rights, people rights. But with no other further ado, I introduce to you NICOLE CRELLIN, United Youth for Human Rights Ontario Director.
Well, hello there. Yes, so I am. Yeah,
there you are. How are you?
I am doing very well, and in Toronto, well, the weather is very good. I'm sure it's better in the Caribbean.
And I'm sure it's better. It's not as bad as out west.
That's right.
They're at -20 right now. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's
province, Alberta, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan. So, wow. So we're so fortunate here, people, at Real Life Matters in Toronto, that we're getting this kind of great weather.
Oh, we're very lucky indeed.
So, NICOLE, can you tell everybody what's your family background and where you come from? Everybody likes to know everybody's background.
Okay. Well, my culture is mainly from Quebec. And so I speak French. And of course, we learned to speak English very, very quickly because we were in an environment where half people were speaking English and French. So I'm bilingual and I know a little bit of Spanish. And I come originally from a small little village it is located in Ontario, just near the border of Quebec. And it is called Alexandria. And it's not in Egypt, and it's in Ontario. And I was born on a farm, so I was living very, very well on peaceful land and working hard and having a great family. I'm the oldest of 7, so
7.
Yes.
Family.
Oh yes. Well, at that time, the Quebec families were very big. You could even have up to 12, 13, 15, 16 children in a family. So of course it's reduced, but at that time the big families were existing.
Well, Celine Dion, she comes from 24.
Wow. Now that's a lot. That's too much.
I'm from Montreal too, so we lived out there.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we were in Lachine there.
Yes.
Good Lachine.
Oh, yes.
So for you, that's something that you came there. You speak French. Then you were raised on a farm. So did you guys just live on a farm, or were you doing that as a business or farm life, or?
So my grandfather and my father, and now members of my family have maintained the farmland and are cultivating it. So that's where I was born, and we had. If you look at human rights, if we see at human rights, we used to have these conflicts between the French and the English. So there was this. So it's like my first introduction to the respect of other people and the respect of human rights. And so it just continued that way. And then I went to university and I just wanted to help people. And at one point in time, when I was at the university, not long after I finished, I was introduced to a section where there were human rights violations. So I documented that and brought that to the media, and that was, it was just like a path that was just kind of like going in a certain way. It's not as if I had decided, okay, that's what I'm going to do, but it just traveled that way. And then in 2004, I became aware of this organization called Youth for Human Rights.
Wow.
And I was very interested with human rights. I had done a lot of other activities as well in the area of human rights, but there was one thing I did not know, and that was, of course, there's a lot of things I don't know, but this specific thing was there is a Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It was written in 1948 after World War II. All these human rights atrocities brought the people together. It was formed by the United Nations Human Rights Commission, and it was headed by Eleanor Roosevelt. And 18 representatives from different countries got together, and they said, now we need to look at what would be some basic human rights that should not be taken away from people. So this is an important document. And it was adopted. They did a lot of work, and it was adopted on December the 10th. And that's why we have every year a celebration. If you look on your calendar, you will see International Human Rights Day. And it's to commemorate this document, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Okay, so you went from, where were you working? You worked in, or you were always interested in this, and then you just went in?
So what it is I was always interested in helping people, and I was doing some human rights activities, as I mentioned, exposing some human rights violations, and so there was an interest in that area. So that when I found out about this organization, Youth for Human Rights, and what they were doing to promote the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which contains 30 articles. So for any of the listeners, you've just found out that you have 30 human rights, because what the problem is we have this important document, valuable document, has been signed by 193 nations. They all say, yes, this is good, except that it's supposed to be disseminated. It's supposed to be, people need to know about that. It should also be taught in schools. And the thing is, people can hardly name three of the human rights. They cannot.
Okay, so you tell us three. What's three?
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Don't discriminate, right? So that's number 2. You also, the people will like this one. You do have article number 24, and it is the right to play. There you go. It's not always that serious. You do have the right to leisure. You don't have to work and all the time. You do have the right to leisure.
So you have, what do you mean by the right to play? You mean just to lay down or do whatever you want?
Not really that way, but okay. It means like that no one can say, well, you're going to be working and there's no leisure. You're not going to rest. You're going to be working, and this is what you're doing. You have the right to be able to enjoy life as well on your own terms as well, right? So
okay, so that's why you're working. Well, I didn't even know that one.
I did not know that one.
What's the book, people? She's going into the book now. Whoa,
yes. Well, here's the little booklet with all the 30 human rights. And number 24 says, we all have the right to rest from work and to relax. So there, it doesn't mean, but another one that is important, I thought this was a legal document, but, to do with lawyers, but this is a human right. And this is called copyright.
Okay.
And copyright is a special law that protects one's own artistic creations and writings. Others cannot make copies without your permission. And that's important. If you create something, it is a human right. It's not just a legal right, but also a human right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you know all these rights.
I have learned them by heart. So there.
Well, I guess you know, and you know which right applies to what. So, but you're in your category. You talk about youth.
Yes. Now,
the organization. You dealing with the youth rights, or you deal with everybody else? Maybe on a time to time, but not really. You're dealing with the youth.
Well, the name of the organization is called United for Human Rights, and under there is Youth for Human Rights. So this is the youth component of Youth for Human Rights, of United for Human Rights. And Youth for Human Rights, the whole purpose is to educate youth about their human rights, more specifically, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and to inspire them to become advocates for tolerance and peace. And so this is important. The youth component is a very good part of human rights education.
So, okay, so walk us through. Okay, so somebody, a youth, maybe about 19, maybe 17, comes to you and she has a problem. So what kind of problem would they normally come to you about?
Well, Youth for Human Rights is mainly there as an educational tool. It provides effective educational tools. So it's to teach people about these rights. Let's say, we have beautiful videos, and this is another one. It's like a little portfolio that has, a DVD in there where and it can also be found online, but it's like a short presentation on making human rights a reality. There's a beautiful documentary called The Story of Human Rights. There's a little video. It's about 5 minutes, and it was all made by youth, and it's called United, and it has gotten a lot of awards, and it's really cool. Wow. All made by youth, and it's all about those rights. So what we do is not like, we're not an organization that deals with, like, let's say, a special problem that people have. It's more like, do you know your rights? And that's where it starts. And then what can you do about that, right? So let's say you have workers' rights, which is number 23 on workers' rights. Let's say your rights are violated. Well, then you know that this is one of your rights, workers' rights, right? So it's a human right. So it's good for people to know what rights they are entitled to as a human being. And that is the purpose of United for Human Rights and Youth for Human Rights. So it's not political. It's just like, do you know your rights and what are they? Okay.
So if somebody's watching this now. They got the book. We're just doing a scenario. And they got the book. They're working somewhere. They're young adult working somewhere. Something happens. And they said, well, hey, NICOLE CRELLIN, she's the youth director for the human rights. And they go look it up, and they say, well, you're not allowed to do that. Maybe something to their employer. Now, so do you step in for them? Or what if they go say, you know what, this is in the human rights, and you can't, you know how younger adults would go and do that. The next thing they get fired from their job because they went and stated something, right? So what did they do? Did they come to you first and address it, or what?
Well, the first thing I would recommend them to do is there is an online free course that they can take. It takes about 4 to 6 hours to do. Okay. And they go over all these rights and what it is, and you have a bit of a history of how these human rights came about. We say human rights, but many years ago you didn't even have the word right, and it was called natural law, and then it became natural rights, and then it became human rights. But to just understand the concept and what it is, so that's what we do. The first thing would be to educate the person about what are those rights and how do they apply to that person. So I'm not a lawyer, but more an educator. Right. And I would listen to what the person has to say. I would do my best to direct them to the right organization. We have Amnesty International that does very good work. You have Human Rights Watch that do excellent work as well. So there are a lot of different human rights organizations that deal with a specific, subject matter. And that way I would direct them to those organizations as well.
Okay. So that's what you would do. So if they came to you and they got that because some people get information and then they just take it way off. You know that, right?
That's right.
They take it way out of context. You know what I mean? So that's when you
Yeah,
gotta take the thing and wheel them back in and say, "He'll come back." You
that's
gotta go to somebody specific in that specific area that deals with that specific matter that they're dealing with at that time.
yes. And since we're speaking about human rights is all about the respect of others. And, so if you are in a situation of a problem with someone, usually it's because of a lack of communication most of the time. So
Uh-huh.
if you communicate with the person, you find what went wrong and you can discuss it, you have much more chances of succeeding than to say, I don't want to talk and this is over and I'm going to take the big, the heavy matters into action. So that's why if we had these human rights known internationally by everyone, if
Okay.
everyone, it depends. It's also the responsibility of individuals, the countries. It's not just one person that will do it all. You have to have as a group. So that's why if you educate people, then they say, oh, this is a human right. Don't discriminate. You might think it's something that is to do with the law, but it is a human right. You should not be discriminated because of your race, your ethnicity, your religion. These are human rights. And so when people know about that, they can stand up to any violation, even just frowning, saying, wow, this is not okay. You should know your rights.
Okay.
Anything that can be done, it's a little step. It doesn't mean you all, you have to do a lot. You just do a little bit, and a little bit by little bit, we all manage to have a society that would be much better.
Okay. So I know you have an event coming up, and it's coming up, and then even if so, what if people want to come in and get those? They can't get to the event and they don't know what it is. So what can they do after to get to you on in the year instead of waiting for the event?
So what they would do is contact Youth for Human Rights International, because a lot of people come from different countries. And then if somebody was in my area, they would refer that person to me. And if not, they'll refer to another person who has another
So you have
organization.
different branches. It's just not one area then.
No, it's all over the
Oh,
world. Yes, it
oh,
has, I
okay.
think, about 100. Let me see here. How many do we have? There's about 50. And anyway, we have 150 groups, clubs, and chapters around the world.
Wow. You see, so this is
Yes.
a worldwide collaboration.
Yes. And so they would go to www.youthforhumanrights.org, or they could go to www.humanrights.com and send in their information or their request. And on the first page, they will see that there's a free online course. So they can just click on that and find out more about it, and then decide, okay, who do I contact? What can I
So then they
do?
engage with either where you are, if they engage with you or somebody else, but you'll send them all through the different, on the channels. They'll see where they're located to where they can go to.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, if you guys want to know human rights and what you're right, it's not a legal battle. It's just knowing your human rights as a humanity, a human
Exactly.
person, and just knowing what you are allowed to or what you are not allowed to, or what people are not allowed to abuse you with.
That's right. And I would like to use a quote here by Mrs. Roosevelt. She was the wife of the President of the United States at the time. And she
Okay.
said, because she was heading that Human Rights Commission where the Universal Declaration came about, and she said, where, after all, do universal human rights begin? Let's ask us that question. Where do they begin? Well, here's her answer, and it makes a lot of sense. In small places, close to home, so close that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood he lives in, the school or college he attends, the factory, farm, or office where he works. So that's why it's important it starts where you are. And if it's not there, it cannot be worldwide. It starts right where you are, in your school, in a meeting, anywhere.
Wow. So that's
Yes.
a powerful quote right there that you just read.
Yes. And here's another one.
All
Um,
right.
oh, here's another one. I thought of this. It's, well, the time is now for all men and women to work shoulder to shoulder for peace and freedom and against racial, religious, and ethnic hatred. The prize, so we have a prize if we do this, and that would be a world of peace and sanity where the pursuit of happiness is possible. So, working shoulder to shoulder, learning about our human rights, finding out what this is all about, and applying them, because you see, there's another one, an article number 29, and it might not be very palatable for a lot of people, but here it
Right.
is: responsibilities. When people have a responsibility, once you know these rights, you have a responsibility, and that's number 29. It's part of those 30 human rights. So
A responsibility, what? To yourself? To what?
a responsibility to make sure that others know about these rights and that they are
Oh,
applied. So
wow.
there you go. So that was included in those 30 human rights. And it's a very important one, right? So if you know them, but you don't really care to do much, well, okay, but it won't go too far. So that's why responsibility is also important and it is included.
All right. So you have an event that's coming up, but even though so you can just tell us a little bit where the event is going to be, what are you going to have, in it?
Yes, we are doing something very special this year. Well, first of all, when I found out about 2004 about International Human Rights Day, well, I had a responsibility every year to organize something. So this is my 17th year organizing events to celebrate International Human Rights Day. And this year we're doing it in partnership with the York Regional Police. And it is at their community safety village. And they have had an addition put in. They build a human rights classroom. This is so unique and it's so special because there's no other police force in the world that have their own human rights classroom. So this is very exciting. So we're doing that celebration, Human Rights Day 2022, at the Community Safety Village of the York Regional Police. And we have special speakers. We have also special entertainers. And we have an imam that's a special guest. His name is Imam Ibrahim Hussein. We have an incredible entertainer by the name of Dr. Draw. If you see him, you will be impressed. An electric violinist is incredible. And the whole thing is there'll also be a tour of the human rights classroom. And this is very special.
Okay. So is that where your headquarters is?
The headquarters are in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So December the 10th is International Human Rights Day. We're having this event on November 24th, but International Human Rights Day is celebrated around the world. So our 150 chapters and clubs and groups will be doing all kinds of things. I just started a bit earlier.
Well, that's okay. You jumped the wagon there.
Oh yes.
Oh, all right. So if people want to go and get any tickets or sign on you to online, so where can they go and find you at?
Again, they connect with youthforhumanrights.org or humanrights.com, and they say, listen, I would like to get involved. I would like to know information. And at that level, at the international level, they will communicate with the right person so that there is a connection between these people.
All right. So are there any shout outs, Nicole, you want to give to any of your organizers or people?
I want to say I'm so happy to be part of this group, to know that it exists. And it's a powerful group. You know that the founder, her name is Dr. Mary Shuttleworth. She was born in South Africa, where she witnessed apartheid and human rights violations, and she became a school principal, an educator, and she's the one who founded Youth for Human Rights International, and she has traveled the world, I don't know how many times, going to all kinds of cities around the world, big cities, small cities, community places all over, to promote human rights. She has done an incredible, amazing, outstanding human rights education work, and it's very impressive. So again, you'll find out more when you go on the website to see who she is and what she's done. But I would give a shout out to Dr. Mary Shuttleworth.
All right. Well, it's Nicole. I'm telling everybody, now a little, at least 3 or 4 of your human rights. So I would encourage everybody to go to the website, take the course, know your rights, know the 30 human rights for you. It's not a legality. This is just knowing your rights.
Yeah, they're yours. They belong to you. And the one that you are using is Article number 18 and 19, which is freedom of thought and freedom of expression.
All right, thank you. Well, that's what they're here, right? Letting everybody freedom of thought, freedom of expression, real life matters. And I do want to thank Nicole for pointing it out. That's part of my show's human rights. So that's what I'm doing.
That's right.
All right. So Nicole, I do want to thank you for coming on today and talking to us. We'll get you to come back on again to discuss, maybe one particular topic or something, and delve in that, everybody has a lot of trouble understanding. So there's always of them which they don't, right?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that.
All right. So I do want to thank you again, Nicole Crellin, for coming on. And also, I do want to thank the viewers tonight for coming on and watching Nicole Crellin and ourselves tonight. So everybody, so good night. So bye for now.
Good night.